Hi everyone, my name is Daria, the founder of Alma Story, and I'm very excited to welcome you to another episode of Soul Story, where our goal is to bring back true values of yoga, and we do it with the help of yoga teachers and yoga students around the world. Today I have a very special guest, Kirsten. She is one of the founders, directors, and head yoga teachers at Akasha Yoga Academy, the school that I just went to for the whole month of teachers training. And I'm very grateful for this experience, Kirsten, because it was really, really special. And I am really excited today that Kirsten is going to share her knowledge and wisdom with you. So Kirsten is focusing mainly on Hatha Yoga, Yin meditation, and she's spreading her knowledge through workshops, retreats, yoga teachers training, mainly throughout the Asia. And she's been doing that for more than a decade now.
Something like that.
Yes, so I'm very excited to welcome you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
Let's start with our first favorite question, which is what yoga means for you.
That's a big question, what yoga means for me. It is something that definitely changed and changes over lifetime, I would say. At the moment, I'm very inspired how a teacher of me put it. He says yoga is the participation in the given reality. And this is what deeply, deeply touches me at the moment. Participation, this full availability to given reality, to whatever comes up, kind of choiceless, just being fully present and available and move with and in what's happening right now.
How did you start your yoga journey?
Oh, how did I start a yoga journey? At the very beginning, yoga was more of a sports, free time activity. It was actually during university times. We had university sports, and part of university sports is yoga. So I checked it out, I liked it, but it was not yet kind of this deep love, deep connection. It was rather superficial, tapping in and out, going to classes randomly. And that led me in university times to travel to India. And in India itself, I just found myself in the first ashram, yoga ashram, Shivananda ashram, immersed immediately like in a full program with getting up early in the morning, doing all the cleaning rituals and chanting and practice and philosophy. And I just really, really fell in love there, actually. It was an introduction into the full Indian experience of yoga. Yeah.
So you were born in Germany, correct?
Yes, that's
and
correct.
You've been living there for the whole life. How did you find out about India and what called you to come there?
Oh, that's a good question. There was always something calling in India. It was actually very beginning of university times that we were sitting together with friends and having ideas to travel the world, and something really attracted me to India. I think the simplicity and the magic that I expected there. My idea was actually with 18 years old that I would go to India just with a toothbrush and nothing else, and just go like that to India. I went differently, but something really attracted me of simplicity and magic.
So you had your normal piece of luggage with everything you
Yes.
needed.
I did. I did.
Did you focus more on meditation aspect of yoga or on physical asanas as well when you went there for the first time?
As I went for the first time, it was just jumping into whatever comes, and I didn't focus at anything in specific. I was just like thrilled by what's happening there with the chanting and the people dressed in their regular Indian dresses, but was for me like totally exciting, and the postures I loved. I remember very fascinated of headstand, when we practiced headstand, like this was very, very calling. We were sitting silent, we were chanting, we were practicing asana. It was just everything kind of that came. But actually, as I started then focusing a little bit more serious, or I don't know what, like not as casual on the practice, actually my calling was first the meditation, and asana came as a support for meditation. That was
Beautiful.
how I rather was diving then deeper into the practice.
And how much time did you spend there?
In India, in total.
Probably when you went for the first time.
The first time was a shorter trip. It was a month. And it was more traveling. Like yoga happened, like I found myself in this ashram for quite a while, but it was more so the idea of traveling and adventuring and backpacking, like that. So that was a shorter trip, but I went later on a couple of more times with a bit more time to just be there.
Right now, when you practice yoga, can you describe your usual practice? What do you focus on mainly? What do you like to focus more?
Right now, my practice is breath-based Hatha Yoga, and I always start with sun salutations. Or actually, I start with a little prayer and offering, and that leads me into sun salutations. Standing postures on the floor, inversions. I have quite a fixed routine, let's put it like that, kind of a sequence that I'm repeating basically in a similar way every day. And it takes me at the end a little bit into mudra practice, and from there in shavasana, and that's what's happening every day.
How many sun salutations do you usually practice?
I practice 12 sets.
12 sets.
Yes.
Because at some point they made us to do 108 sun salutations.
No, that's not my daily practice at all.
Yeah, but I'm really excited to try them out because I couldn't do it last time, but I'm sure it's going to make a difference, as so many people shared.
Yeah, it's a beautiful practice. I just really love sun salutations. I feel there's such an immediate connection of movement and breath, and that's, for me, just the breath is what's important in asana. Like, that was a bit of a journey to end there, kind of to really understand that it's not so much the outer shape, but much more the inner alignment of the practice of the breath. And it was actually this morning so beautiful. I practiced, and Devdas was just sitting outside having his tea, and suddenly he turned around and told me, just check in with the beginning and end of your breath. And I was like, he really caught me off track. I was just starting thinking of all the meetings that will happen during the day, and he immediately noticed during the practice, and he immediately noticed and heard it in my breath actually reflected, and it was so beautiful. He just brought me back into my breath practice and into the moment on the mat. So breath is basically what the practice is all about. Basically, it's a dance of shapes around the breath, I would say.
That's the beauty of having a partner who is a pranayama teacher, right?
Very much, very much.
So you can control each other and actually point out on the points that are missing. I know that recently you had a beautiful daughter.
Yes.
Who is actually sleeping right now, so I'm very grateful
yes,
for this, that she allows us to record this interview. How do you manage to practice with your little one? Because it can be super challenging, right? Time-wise.
I am using her sleeping times. So her nap time, her morning nap time is at the moment my practice time. And I know that her naps and her rhythm and everything is changing. So at the moment, I'm just enjoying to hop into her morning nap and use that. So my practice is at the moment rather a little shorter. Like I used to practice a bit longer, but I'm just fitting it into the space that's available, and it's perfect. It works beautifully.
How soon are you planning to introduce yoga to Serena?
Oh, I think she will just, like by herself come and play. And actually, Devdas already is practicing yoga, like her all
Ujjayi breath.
different moves and shapes. Of course, they really, yoga is just such a natural thing. Like she is doing naturally her Bhujangasana and her Setubandhasana, bridge pose and cobra and down dog she starts now doing, and
So
it's
cute.
just happening in her play. Like it's such natural shapes, and somehow the baby just picks up on this shape. So already yoga is kind of happening, like the asanas are happening, and the yoga is happening anyhow because she only knows now. So she's just so in the present moment. And that's
Beautiful.
also the beauty of the child, or of being with the baby at the moment. She doesn't know anything but now, but she notices when we are not there now. And she requests basically that we are with her in the present, and that's really, really beautiful.
What's the tools or reminders that you use for yourself in order to be now, to be in the present moment? And maybe you can recommend something to everyone who is watching, how to actually be more present. Because I feel every one of us struggling with that all the time.
That's a big question. I feel the important thing is just to notice that one is hopping into mind stories and basically leaving the present with the mind stories. And just this noticing, and actually also the mind stories, they're also happening now. But it's when we start seeing the mind stories and seeing the mind, we are basically back. So it's this. It's just a natural process. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. Sometimes it's coming in more immediate to ground back and land here. So I'm not using really tools. Like it's more the commitment to, when noticing that the mind takes off, to just be also with that, because that's happening eventually also now. So to be with that, but rather to ground even the mind stories into the present by being with it than being it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel yoga practice helps you with that?
Definitely. I feel very much that yoga practice helps. Yoga practice helps. The breath just helps to be in what's happening, because breath is just happening right now. There's no breath for the future. There's no real breath for the past. Like it's something that's happening right now. And when just moving with the breath or being with the breath, I feel that's a strong anchor into just what's happening right now. So yeah, definitely I feel breath helped me a lot, and yoga and breath, but also the meditation, the sitting practice helped a lot to see more, to become more spacious, to see more basically.
Do you feel yoga changed your life?
Did yoga change my life? Probably it would be more right to say that yoga is life, and basically brought about the change to really be open and available to be with what is, kind of coming back to how we opened, like yoga being the participation in the given reality. So basically yoga is life, and I am life, and we are life. And yoga, rather than changing life, brought me into this awareness that like whatever happening is life, and we are life. And yoga kind of opened me to this fact. It's like just a fact, like we are life, we are breath, we are love. And yoga kind of brought this very clearly to my attention.
You've been teaching yoga now since 2008, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Why did you start teaching yoga?
Actually, I didn't plan to start teaching yoga. I took a teacher training myself, actually with the purpose to deepen my practice. I wanted to know more. I knew there is more to that than just the asana practice. And I wanted to learn about the philosophy. I wanted to just also fully expose myself to the lifestyle of yoga and what comes all with that. And I decided to do a training for that purpose. And I felt like maybe, like in 10 years from now, it might be an option that I would share that. But I never saw myself as a teacher and had not the intention to be one. But then it happened that kind of a couple of months later, just the teaching started, the sharing started basically.
I'm
So it was
really
unplanned.
excited that it started. So.
It was very unplanned. It just happened. So no intention behind that.
And right now, since you've been teaching for so many years, what do you love the most in this process of teaching?
Of teaching. Like at the moment, I'm involved in teacher trainings, mostly or almost exclusively. And there I love most actually when I see people come back into their hearts, when I see people become more authentic, people drop what they feel is expected of them and just starting to listen and connect into what's truly present in them. And this, I feel people start shining so much. And this is what I enjoy the most, actually. Like, there's such beautiful realizations happening in people when they tap a bit more intensely into the practice. And this is what I'm really thrilled by. It's such a beauty, such a joy to hear people step into themselves. That's what I mostly love.
Do you have any recommendation for those who never practiced before, but just heard of this yoga concept or of yoga asanas, but still haven't put their feet into this beautiful journey of yoga?
Recommendations on how to start?
Yes.
Or how to start? Just start moving. Like, I feel it can be happening with books, it can be happening with friends, it can be happening with teachers. It's just like really stepping into it in whichever way. And I feel every one of us finds their way, their connection, their style, their approach. Like, there is so many styles and approaches that I feel almost everyone can be given a hand to start with. So I feel if there's a curiosity, just don't wait. Just step into it in whichever way it is available. So I would not wait for the right moment, wait for the right time, wait for a trip to India, wait for a great teacher, but just get started. Even like with YouTube, with internet, with a book, with a friend, like whoever. Like when curiosity calls, just moving with the flow.
How to differentiate the yoga is asana and yoga is a lifestyle? Because I personally find that right now when we think yoga, we think mostly just about physical postures, and thanks to Instagram we think about some crazy flexible insanely circus-ish look posing. But how to actually focus more on the holistic approach of yoga?
I feel again here the breath is the key. The key is to turn in, kind of the key is to take yoga, even in asana, to take it from an outer shape, from an outer perfect image that we are striving for. That's in yoga happening, but that's happening throughout all our life. That kind of there's a striving, a running, trying to fit in some type of personal a perfect outer shape. And I feel yoga is absolutely not about an archetypal shape in which we try to kind of fit in, but yoga is much more an expression of our inner beauty. So for me, the key is very much to turn it in and to start focusing on the inner alignment. And I feel when starting to focus on the inner alignment and breath, also this striving, this physical striving really falls away, because it opens the door to such a deeper and more magical place that actually this superficial outer striving becomes secondary. Still, I love myself also to challenge myself in the practice. I love a stronger practice. I love also that the physical part is included. But for me, since I learned to work with the breath in this way, and make the breath the center of the practice, also my striving in the practice dropped, and my striving also in life itself slowly is dropping more and more. So I feel the key is really to make the breath the center of the practice. And as the breath becomes the center of the practice, like a different availability and listening starts happening, a real connection into your own intimacy. And I feel that by itself just spreads in life and changes life. So I feel there's not much to do, but just the daily practice on the mat, making the breath the center. Like I feel this is how to turn things around. And that was how I started for myself, turning things around. Like for me, the striving aspect, the wanting to be able to do something that is not present right now, fell away so much by integrating the breath properly and make that the main part of practice. And this is, I feel, what yoga eventually is about. It's not a practice to achieve something at one point in the future, a fancy shape, but it's really just to connect deeply into ourselves and to be present and intimate with ourselves. And I feel that the breath is definitely the key for all of that. And the breath then just by itself, or the practice by itself, spreads its light into every part of life.
After practicing all these years, do you feel there's still certain areas where you're struggling with? Maybe it can be yoga asana, or maybe some part of even breathing.
Of course, it's basically not really struggling, but it is every day, every breath, basically, this practice of being here. So I don't feel at all that it's a finished process, or that I'm sitting in my practice and it's perfect as it is. I feel it's just like this acknowledgement of constant change, and to make space for constant change. Maybe that's maybe not a struggle, but kind of this is what I try to be with in practice. To maybe one can put it like that, to really be available for what's happening right now. And that means sometimes maybe to step back a little bit from something, or to have more time or less time for something, kind of to really understand and see and value and honor and respect and respond to what's happening right now. And it requires kind of a certain wakefulness, I would say. And that's maybe what I'm working with, kind of to really be awake and aware to what's happening right now.
I know that you're not traveling much because of
the little one,
little princess. But when you travel, do you maintain your yoga practice?
Not my daily routine, or if I can, I do, but of course sometimes you have to catch an early flight, or kind of just, the days are extremely full. I try to have some movement and breath in the day. Be it just like 6 sun salutations, 12 sun salutations before all the day starts. If it's possible to integrate a little bit more and make more space, I would always try to do that, but sometimes just there is no space. Also now with the baby, sometimes things go differently. Now we were just running the teacher training, and the day started at 6:30 on the deck, and of course before I leave the house I'm feeding the baby and getting the baby ready, and sometimes there's just not much time later in the day also to practice. I would always start with a couple of sun salutations. A bit of moving and breathing is just how it's almost as essential, or it is as essential as brushing teeth or having a quick shower, to really connect just a little at least into breath and movement. And also with the baby, it's beautiful. In the past, I was much more focused on always in the morning having my practice, and now I become more flexible. Just she
Now you
naps,
try to fit it everywhere.
I jump on the mat. So that's also actually really beautiful to learn this flexibility with the baby.
Is there any tip how to maintain your practice?
I think the key is really to keep it maybe short, and to rather have something nice and short that can be maintained, kind of a short self-practice I'm thinking here, rather than having too big of expectations. Like that can easily happen. We come from a trip from India where we practice yoga every day, or we come from a teacher training, or kind of from a bigger immersion, and we come back home and there's a lot of drive to really, keep on going and be strong in the practice, because we know how beautiful it is. But then the struggle starts with work life, social life, family life, just so many things. And it can be frustrating when the big part or big chunk of practice doesn't fit in the day. And I feel that this frustration can rather lead to dropping everything, basically, dropping out of the practice. I hear so often people doing yoga on and off, even people applying for the training. There's a lot of references. Yeah, I'm practicing yoga for the past 5 years, on and off. And I feel what's important is to keep a tiny practice on for extended amounts of time.
Yeah, I loved what you shared at the teacher's training, that sometimes even 7 minutes or like 5-7 minutes is enough, just in order to get you to the mat. And then, half an hour later, you're like, oh, I'm still practicing, yes. I'm still doing it.
Yes, that's just the beauty, kind of, to move on the mat, and as soon as you're on the mat, and if the commitment is small, I feel there's the much higher possibility that we actually do it. And if the joy just comes and times allows, it can extend. So giving room for a little bit, that sometimes maybe extends into more, rather than having an idea of doing something big and running into frustration that it doesn't fit in.
Thank you so much for such great advice and for everything that you shared today. I really enjoyed knowing more about you, and I really enjoyed our training that lasted for a month, and I highly recommend to explore and just read more about it, because it is such a beautiful experience which introduced yoga not from the physical side, but actually as a holistic journey to the life and how to live life to the fullest, pretty much. So I know that you have to run back to your baby, but I'm very grateful for you to spend this time with me and sharing your knowledge with everyone.
Thank you so much, Daria. It was such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, Kirsten, so much, and thank you again for such a beautiful experience. It was really, really beyond the words that I can express.
We were so lucky having you on the training.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let us know what you think in the comments, and just keep in touch. And I hope you'll enjoy our next episodes of Soul Story.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daria.